Hi, fantasy readers. This is Karyne Norton, your fellow book binger, and you are listening to the Finding Fantasy Reads podcast, where you can test out a new fantasy story every single week to find your next favorite author. If you haven't listened to the first part of People of Water, you'll want to go back and check out last week's episode before listening to this one. Last week, we left off with Paik and Kalara forming a tentative friendship, even though it's forbidden. And this week, we get to see the results of that decision. One of my favorite things about the uniqueness of this world is that it makes it so difficult for me to guess where the story is going, which is something I do often to the point that I can ruin stories for myself as a reader. I hope you love being surprised by the end of Paik and Kalara's story as much as I did. Keep listening after the story to see how it connects to Rachelle's full-length novel, Sky of Seven Colors. For now, please enjoy People of Water by Rachelle Nelson. Chapter 4. You eat living creatures? Paik's face paled. That is wrong. It was our third meeting, and we sat facing each other in the soft grass beneath the trees. I had to lean back to see all the way up to his face. The fish aren't alive anymore when we eat them. But you have to kill them first. How would you like it if someone killed you for a meal? He had a point. What did you think we ate on the water? Sea plants, though I cannot imagine they taste very good. They don't. We ate a lot of those, too. Paik was full of questions. How did you know where to drink? We get our water from the lagoon. There are blooms in the sea sometimes that can make you sick. I knew those blooms too well. I looked at the ground and plucked the plants. Some currants were safe. Some weren't. It could be hard to tell, and it always changed. Once, before I was born, they sailed to a region where all the water was salty and undrinkable. They had to flee back to fresh water. Sometimes we lost people. Each year, there were more empty chambers on the vessel. When my father was born, they were all full. I looked up to see Paik's white lashes closed against his cheeks. He was doing it again, feeling what I was feeling. I thought of sunshine and fruit and mother's fire, things that made me warm inside so I could warm Paik. He opened his eyes. I want to show you something special, Kalara, but you will have to walk deep into the forest. Can you take that much time? Mother would be at the ladies' deck for their daily meeting. They still called the gathering a deck, even though they now met in a meadow full of tables and chairs and shade coverings. They would trade new recipes for plants and work on their sewing projects and share anything they learned about the land or the giants. Mother wouldn't come looking for me until the end of the day, though she would be worried if I didn't come to the meeting. I could face that later. I can go with you. I stood and shook all the dust from my hem. We walked for a long time. Paik had to stop every few paces for me to catch up. He never ran out of questions about life in the vessel, my people's gifts, the old wars. I like talking like this, he said. It is easier without all the rules adults have. I wish the elders would ask better questions. And I wish your people would say more. Everyone is too careful. I liked it too. We are here. Paik rounded an enormous boulder and waited for me. He stood in front of a cliff face. The top extended higher than any of the trees. A deep crack split the cliff, opening a pathway like a winding hall. This way. Paik entered the crack. I followed. It went even deeper than I first suspected. The air smelled damp, and it chilled my skin. I stumbled, catching myself on the wall, which crumbled at my touch. We need a fire to see in here. Not my people. Paik stopped for a moment, for my sake. You cannot find your way? You can see in the dark? Paik thought for a moment before answering. We can feel where the earth and the plants are. People, too. If there was no light, I would not be able to see your face, but I would know where you stand. It is not the same for water people? No. I edged along the rocks, more careful now. I didn't have fire or night sight. I was blind from the perspective of both peoples. Eventually, the crack widened into a clearing, and sunshine reached us again. Paik stepped aside and I stopped, my eyes fixed on something I had never seen before. In the center of the clearing sat a stone the size of a footstool, shaped like any rock. But it radiated an intensity I didn't understand. What is it? I couldn't look away. It is called color. A colored stone. I was used to seeing shades and tones. Dark, light, black, white. But this was something else. Flecks shone from the polished surface. They blazed in shades brighter than the sky, more vivid than daylight. There are names for the colors. Paik pointed at a fleck. This one is yellow. The sun almost has this color, but not enough to really notice. This one is red. I have only seen it on the stone. I love it. Paik laughed. We all do. A long time ago, before anyone can remember, we were given a temporary door so we could bring this stone from a distant place, a different land, full of color. The stone makes our gifts stronger. How? For me, I can hear thoughts when I am with the color. Usually, I only feel feelings. He could hear what I was thinking? I can. My pulse raced. Paik went on. We have a ceremony here, once per generation. It is coming soon, and I will perform it. All the villages attend, with all the languages. If I speak, they will understand. I will pass a rare gift from one of our elders to a youth, so the youth can carry the gift on before the elder's life ends. Something about the color drew me forward. I stepped closer. Besides the ceremony, the color also blesses our mothers. He paused. That is why I wanted to show you. When mothers come here, they have more children. Maybe it will be the same for your people. Maybe your numbers will grow. If you get your father to ask the right questions, our elders might tell him. But no one can know I showed you. I stood over the stone, unable to look away. When I reached for it, I half expected the color to burn me, but it was cool against my fingertips. And then came the dream. The same one as always. A child struck down, giants burning, plants withering. I saw it all, and my heart broke again. When I awoke, I was lying on the dirty ground. I must have fallen. Paik knelt beside me, holding my hand. Tears streamed down his speckled cheeks. You saw? I didn't move. Yes. It was real. I sat up and wiped away my tears. It is real. He had seen what no one else could. It felt good to have someone understand. I also felt sorry. You shouldn't have had to see those things, I said. No one should. Paik shook his head and looked at me with haunted eyes. Kalara, we have to stop it. That night, when I returned to our home, Mother stood in the entry, waiting. You never came to the ladies' deck. It was a statement that held a question. I shuffled my feet in the dirt, glad I had worn shoes today. Mother went on. The gathering is important. It allows us to stay in tune with the others. It helps us develop our abilities. But my ability isn't like anyone else's. I don't sew. I don't build. I can't even make a flame. Mother's face softened. I know. She pulled me into a hug, and I hid my face in her shoulder. Have you had any new dreams? She asked. No, not new ones. I didn't mention that I'd had the same one today, and last night, and every night. Good. And Kalara, you can sew, even if it's not the same as some of the others. Will you come to the next gathering? I stepped back and nodded. Mother smiled. But the place I would truly develop my ability was with Paik. He saw, and together we would change my dreams. I held the tiny black seeds in my palm. They contained life. How could trees grow from something so small? Paik dug his fingers into the soil, making a hole in the forest floor. We had met at our usual spot. He dropped in a few of the seeds. You bury them like this. You should try it. I made my own hole and covered the seeds, shuddering at the dirt under my nails. Now like this. Paik laid his hands over the seeds and made a strange, beautiful sound with his voice. A low, long rumble that went up and down in a pleasing pattern. Soon, leaves and stems sprouted from the ground. You should be able to do it, he said. You have more gifting than most of us. Probably more than me. If you touch the earth, it is easier. Then you can call the seeds to grow. Set the intention in your mind. I placed my hand over the dirt. What was that sound you made? I was just singing. Any tune will work. Singing? I had never heard of anything like that before. I made a long noise, trying to imitate Paik. It wasn't pretty. He frowned, but said nothing. With my eyes closed, I wished for my plant to grow. I imagined it sprouting leaves. I even tried speaking to it with my thoughts. Please grow. But nothing happened. Paik let out a sigh. I did not like the way that elder from your dream looked at the water people. He meant the giant who would hit the child in the future. You should know, he said. We do not need the help your father gives in the fields. There are plenty of crops, and our work is easy. Right now, the elders ask for help, so your people will value the food. Free things are not always appreciated as they should be. Our elders want to share work and build trust. But in your dream, the giants make your people work and build for us, to punish them. Our descendants want power over the water people. They'll have all the power. We would starve without them. which is why you need to learn to grow plants. We both looked down at the bare dirt where I had planted my seed. Paik knelt beside me. You did the right thing in your heart. I felt it. Sometimes plants take time to grow. We will check for sprouts tomorrow. But there were no signs of growth the next day, or the day after that. I planted seed after seed. Paik tried to correct my singing. Still, nothing. We counted the days. On the 20th morning, Paik knelt close to me, bringing his face low. This is not working. I do not think water people can grow plants. We need help. My father won't listen to me. Paik and I had both agreed not to tell the giant elders about my dream. We didn't know how they would react if they believed him. Would they see water people as villains? Make us leave the land? Leaving was one option, but my people had been fading on the vessel. There had to be a better way. Paik spoke. I have asked the elders if they will make a better treaty, to give the water people ownership of land. If you can't grow plants, maybe you could own the earth. The elders laugh at me. I haven't told them about the dream, but I explained how you are dependent on us, and it makes you vulnerable. They say we would never hurt our friends. He looked away. My words do not matter to them. I am a translator, not a speaker. They matter to me. I laid my tiny hand over Paik's long fingers. He met my eyes. Then you must come with me for help. Where? To my great-grandmother. I pulled my hand away. You promised you wouldn't tell anyone about our meetings. I have not, but I think we should. She is not like other elders. When you are very old, sometimes you become like a child again. She will understand, and she knows things. How far? I asked. You will be home by the afternoon if I carry you on my back some of the way. I tensed. Mother and father worried about me spending too much time in the trees. If I went with Paik, there would be questions again tonight. He leaned closer. Do you trust me? I looked into his strange, dusky eyes. He was the only one who shared my dream. The only one who ever could. I stood and motioned for Paik to do the same. Which way? Her house stood taller than anything made by my people. Instead of a stone construction, 4 trees had grown into a curling frame, and someone had filled the gaps with packed earth. The windows glistened with tiny panes of glass united into one pattern. The top of the rock wall could be seen over the trees in the distance. We're near the colored stone? I asked. She is our best healer, and even better when the color enhances her gift. When she was young, she moved her home near the stone so she could always be ready to heal the worst sicknesses. Healing? We don't have that gift either. There was only one gift that overlapped between our peoples, as far as Paik and I knew. Some of the older people from the vessel were gifted with perfect memories, and they wrote down our histories. The giants had a similar gifting, but they kept their words in songs, not books. Paik set me down. I had ridden on his back for part of the way. His long legs could walk faster than mine, but hanging on made my arms sore. I stretched them. He peered down at me. If you don't have healers, what do you do when someone gets hurt or sick? I thought of all the bodies we had given to the sea. Concern passed over Pake's face as he felt my emotion. Healers cannot stop all loss, even for us, he said. He wanted to say more. I could hear it in his voice. Your parents. He gave a deep nod. When I was little, we visited a faraway village. They didn't have a strong healer there, and sickness came. I looked up into Pake's eyes and let him sense my sorrow for him. He gave me a quiet smile. They took care of me in that village and brought me home. I thought of that when I saw your mother for the first time. She was small and alone, like I had been once. Pake, I watched the whole thing. I had already thanked him for helping her, but I had never confessed my own lack of action as I sat on that balcony. I didn't do anything. I just watched. Pake's eyes narrowed. I'm more grateful to you than you know, I said, but it should have been me who helped. Before Pake could respond, a sound interrupted us from inside the house. Lovely tones sung in a deep voice. I could appreciate singing now, even if I couldn't do it myself. Atha always sings. Pake smiled. Wait here. I will go in first and prepare her to meet you. He closed the front door behind him. I waited in the warm sun, flicking away leaves and grass that had clung to my dress during the journey through the woods. Low voices rumbled from inside the house, but I couldn't understand the words. The door opened. Come in, Pake said. I stepped into the cool shade of the home, then stopped in the entry. The giant lady sat in a huge wooden chair, and her eyes followed my movements. Even sitting, she was 1.5 times my height. I had grown used to Pake, who looked wilder than anyone I had ever met. This strange lady made Pake seem like a common sight. Orbed adornments hung from her long earlobes, and the lines of age creased her face. She had Pake's white hair, though hers was braided into an enormous tangle of metal beads. There was no order to the braids, like the symmetrical designs our ladies wore, and the ends hung straight where there should have been curls. When she smiled, her teeth were gray. I dipped my head low, the way Mother taught me to do at the ladies' deck. The giant laughed, then stretched her long arm toward me. For a short moment, she clasped my hand gently in hers, between her thumb and forefinger. Her skin was soft and warm. Then she let go. I tapped my chest. Kalara. Atha. She laid a hand across her own chest. It's what Pake should have done when we first met. I shot him a look to say as much, then smiled at Atha. She is happy to meet you, Pake said. She says that children should be allowed to play together, especially if their peoples are supposed to be friends. Tell her I agree. Atha made a series of strange words, then Pake translated. She thinks you are a very pretty child. I felt my cheeks warm. What did you tell her about me? I asked. Not about your dream, but I explained the power imbalance, and she understands. She is wise, and we should ask her questions. Can you ask her if there's a way for me to grow plants? He spoke to her, and her face fell. No, Pake relayed to me. She says our people were given all this land, It will only listen to us." He frowned. "I should have asked her before trying for so long." Heaviness filled my chest. "Ask her if there's anything we can do, so we're not a burden on the giants." Paik listened to Atha for a while, before speaking to me. "She asked me questions in return. If we bless the distant villages and share our knowledge with them, does that make us weaker or stronger? It makes us all stronger. If we pour our gifts out on the earth, do we lose our gift? No. It returns to us as food. If we share our land with the water people, will we starve? No. We will save people in need. It is better to have less food than to turn someone away, even if they are different from us." But she didn't know the whole truth. They wouldn't starve, but there would be war. Tears threatened to spill, but I blinked them back. I tried a different question. "What if future generations don't want to share? There could be fights. People could get hurt." It was as close to the truth as I wanted to get. Paik translated, then spoke her answer back to me. "Our people are gifted and givers. Which is worse, to get hurt or to lose our identity? We give, no matter the outcome." Atha gave me the warmest smile yet and spoke. Paik listened and translated in a soft voice. "You are our friend, little one. If we will not make sacrifices for you, we do not deserve the land we have." Some sacrifices were too much. She looked to Paik and spoke something to him, but he didn't share it with me. His face grew serious, and then he turned to me. "We should get you home." He was right, though I would have liked to stay with Atha for longer. Maybe she would sing again. She clasped both my hands before we left, and I bent low to show my gratitude. Paik carried me through the forest on his back, the way Father used to carry me up the vessel stairs when I was smaller. I held tight to his shoulders, trying not to be heavy. The visit with Atha had left me more uneasy about the dream than ever. If only the giant elders could understand. I circled back to our usual conversation. I wish I could let them see my dream in a way that wouldn't make them hate us. "Atha understands more than you think," Paik said. "But she would rather do what is right than what is safe." If they had my gift, they could see for themselves. They'd feel the sorrow for both sides. "Gifts cannot be transferred." He paused. Except what?" I leaned forward to try to see his face. "Remember the ceremony I told you about? Once per generation, there is a gift that moves from an elder to a younger person." "What's the gift?" I panted, tired from holding on during the ride. Paik set me down and we both caught our breath. I would walk for a while. "Have you heard about our long sleep?" he asked. "When the cold comes?" "Hibernating." "Yes. Though we do not have that word in our language. When the cold days come, we have to sleep. If we do not, we can die. No healer can save us. It is how we are made." I knew all this, but hearing it more than once didn't make it less strange to me. "So," I said, "the ceremony has something to do with your hibernation?" I didn't like the idea of Paik sleeping for a long time. "Yes, there is a gift among us, the ability to bless the sleep. Without that gift, we would stay awake and suffer, even die. In the ancient days, we learned how to transfer that gift from an elder to a youth, to preserve it. That is the ceremony, and it has to be done at the colored stone. How do you decide which youth gets the gift? They have to be good-hearted, according to the elder. His face fell for a moment, and I wondered why. And they must be healthy. She has already been chosen, and her name is Kit, the elder's granddaughter. He paused again. I will perform the ceremony. It will be difficult, because I have to speak words that 8 different kinds of talkers can understand. I have to make them all hear it. I wish I could see you do that. He smiled. Me too. Paik, what did Atha say to you before we left? It was just... He tucked his hair behind his large pointed ears, and his speckled cheeks darkened into a gray blush. She said she's proud I'm your friend, and that she knows I will do the right thing. What did she mean by the right thing? Paik didn't speak for a while, walking in silence before he answered. Kalara, if I could give you my gift to grow plants, I would do it. You are good-hearted. If I was your great-grandmother, I said, I would be proud of you too. Chapter 5. Mother pulled the bed covers up to my chin and tucked them around me. You don't have a fever. I'm only a little bit sick, I said. If I sleep now, I'll feel better tomorrow. Guilt weighed on my chest. When had I ever lied to Mother like this? She didn't know about Paik, but I had never left at night, in secret, until now. You need to eat more, Mother said. In the morning, I'll make fish. They're only bite-sized, but they're fresh. Thank you. I blinked slowly, trying to look tired. I'd like that. I closed my eyes and heard her leave the room. It was time to find my way into the forest. I inched my feet into my softest shoes and lifted my cloak from its hook. I shouldn't have been going. I wouldn't have. But Paik had asked me, and asked again, and again. I need you there, he had said. Someone who sees me. Someone who hears more than just my translations. Atha will be at the ceremony. She sees you. Atha is very old and cannot travel even the short distance from her house to the stone anymore. She is fading as our healer and grows weaker every day. My heart ached for her, and I knew Paik felt it. He brought his face to my level. I would not ask if it were not important. Someday, you and I will be the elders, and we will make the treaties together. That starts now. There are no other friends like us between the peoples. We need to know each other and see each other's ways. He was right. So now I was sneaking around and lying. I slid out my window, landing on the grass with a gentle thud. I flinched, hoping Mother hadn't heard. The moon shone at its brightest phase, lighting my usual path to our meeting place. It took a moment for me to spot Paik's thin form among the tree branches, but he was there, like he said he would be. Without a pause, he knelt, We do not have time for short legs today. I will carry you. I'm not short. You're tall. I looped my arms around his shoulders and turned my face to the side to avoid his feathery hair. I've thought of something, I said. Your people can sense things in the dark. If I hide in the rocks, won't they know I'm there? Not if you stay very still. They will be focused on the color and the ceremony. Paik raced through the forest, faster than we had ever gone. My arms and legs burned, but I held on. His shoulders rose and fell with heavy breaths, deeper than my lungs could manage. Soon we came to the crack in the wall. He set me down and we walked to the open space with the colored stone. It was empty. We were early, as planned. Even in moonlight, the color drew me in. I couldn't see the vibrancy as clearly at night, but I felt it. Do not touch it, Paik said. You might fall asleep again, and everyone will be here soon. All your people are going to fit in here? Representatives from each region. I went further into the crack, finding a boulder to sit behind. It was a good spot. I could see the colored stone and would probably be able to hear well enough. Dust coated my hands and probably stuck to my cloak, but I couldn't worry about that. And I wouldn't think about the tiny creatures that sometimes crawled on the ground in the dark. Small monsters with 8 legs. Stay there, Paik said, and move as little as possible. Even if you get very dirty, or if you see an insect. I smiled, remembering that he could feel my thoughts here. Kalara, no matter how things go tonight, I want you to know I tried my best. Of course you'll do your best with the ceremony. You'll do so well. I sent him reassuring thoughts. Even if he stumbled over a word, everything would go on as planned. He left. I waited. Then, giants came. They arrived in groups of 2s and 3s, whispering in reverent tones. Some wore robes with hoods. One giant had no hair, with skin as pale as the moon. As their numbers grew, they spread out, lining up against the rock walls, facing the colored stone. Paik returned. He was smaller than the rest. He took his place in the middle, apart from everyone. A tall, hunched figure joined him on one side, the gifted elder, I assumed. On the other side stood a slender lady. She was young, but grown, and beautiful in her giant way, with a straight nose and braided white hair. Kit, the youth who would receive the gift. My stockings made my ankles itch, but I refused to move and give away my position. I barely dared to breathe. Paik had trusted me with this, and I wouldn't ruin it for him. All eyes rested on Paik. He stood stiff, so different from his usual posture. Paik opened his mouth, and a sound filled the air. Singing. I had heard him hum before, but nothing like this. It started out wordless. Long tones sank into me and made me shiver. Then he sang words. Gifted words we could all understand. The cold came, and all it gave were nights long and shadows deep. It took breath and light away, until we were gifted with the sleep. Bless the sun, bless the rain, bless the sleep, until we wake. After that, all the giants joined in a chorus of voices, their sweet tones even lower than Paik's. Every giant sang their own words, but somehow blended them with everyone else. The sound made me think of seeing land for the first time. It made me think of calm seas and father's gift, of mother's fire and my dreams, the good ones I used to have. They all stopped at once. How did they know when to end? Paik turned to the elder beside him. You have carried your gift well. You blessed the sleep in your midlife, and everyone made it through the cold. Now that you are an elder, do you freely relinquish your gift for the next cycle? The elder replied with a word I couldn't understand, and I thought I heard a smile in his voice. Paik turned to Kit and looked at her. Then he looked past her, and it felt like he was looking at me. My heart quickened. I fought the urge to shrink deeper into the crack, hoping no one would follow Paik's gaze. Any movement would draw attention, too. Paik went on, as if speaking to Kit, but I felt his eyes on me. This gift blesses our sleep and keeps our people alive. If it comes to you, will you receive it? If it chooses you, will you choose to carry it well? Paik's words stirred something inside me. Was I carrying my gift well? The dreams that begged to be spoken? Kit said the same word her grandfather had. Did it mean yes? I felt a yes in my own heart. Yes, I had been given a gift. Yes, I would do whatever I could not to waste it. My best. Like Paik. He turned back to the elder. You may touch the color now, and let it move you. The giant knelt and placed both hands on the stone. He sang, his lone voice ringing low, a haunting sound. As he sang, light came with his breath, shining from his lips, brighter with each note. It wasn't fire. It wasn't moonlight. It crackled and sparked white. And somehow, I knew it was his gift made visible. The elder stopped singing and sat on the ground, breathing heavy. The light moved away from him, floating on its own now. Paik took over the tune, his voice deep and moving. All eyes followed the light that hung in the air. It moved toward Kit, and she held out her hands, as if to receive a newborn child. In the white glow, I could see Paik's eyes clearly. They looked right at me. I hardly breathed. His face didn't move, and he didn't stop singing. But something strange happened. His voice came to me. Not in my ears. It came to my mind. Be ready, Kalara. Cold flooded my veins. Be ready for what? You said yes, as I hoped you would. I heard you, and I asked the gift to listen also. Beneath Paik's song, a whispered murmur rose from the gathering. The light moved past Kit. She followed it with outstretched arms, her expression determined. But it didn't stop for her. It went faster now, toward the back of the circle, toward the crack, toward me, where it stopped. I had been seen. Kit's eyes narrowed and her hands balled into fists. Giants spoke loudly, no longer in whispers. They all saw me. My heart thundered, pulsing through all my limbs. I didn't dare look up at the light, or at the giants. What excuse could I give for being here? Stand, Kalara. Paik's thoughts came to me, gentle but urgent. Slowly, on wobbling knees, I rose from my hiding place. The voices around me grew to a roar. But something else drowned out the noise. Not with words, but it spoke all the same. The way my dreams spoke to me. A waking vision replaced the scene in front of me. I saw myself walking among rows of sleeping giants. They lay on soft cushions, wrapped in warm blankets, their eyes gently closed. And in my vision, I sang to them. Me. Beautiful sounds came from my unlikely voice. Usually, my gifted dreams gave a command. They demanded to be spoken. This vision came with a question. Will you love the giants? Will you watch over them? The vision faded, and I looked up at Paik, my friend, the one who would have taught me to grow plants. What would I not do for him? Yes, I thought. Yes. I took in a deep breath, but more than air filled my lungs. As I breathed, the gift came into me, and the light disappeared. Shadow surrounded us again. At first, I coughed, afraid the light would burn my throat, but it settled inside my mind, where my dreams lived. It reminded me of jumping into clear blue water, a shock at first, then pleasant. I drifted in the gift's gentle current, or maybe it drifted in mine. The giants went silent. I blinked in the dark, white spots still floating in my vision from the light that had disappeared. Still, I could feel Paik's eyes on me, all the giants' eyes. Voices erupted and tall figures rushed toward me. Kit reached me first and wrapped her strong fingers around my wrist. With a sharp tug, she pulled me from the crack, into the opening. Another giant grabbed me beneath my arms and shoved me into the center with the stone. The voices grew heated and loud, streams of foreign words. I heard Paik's voice shouting, but I couldn't understand him or see him through the crowd of bodies. I tried to think of what to say, but it wouldn't matter. No one would understand my words. Kit's grip tightened painfully on my arm. My eyes darted from face to face, and I tried to twist away from her. Then, light split the sky above us, and everyone looked up. It flickered with a familiar movement. Fire. 2 people stood on the top of the rock wall. My people. My family. Mother's hands blazed. "Paik!" she shouted. I had never heard her like that. Hard. Furious. The giants quieted. My father's voice bellowed into the opening. "Where is Paik?" "I am here." He pushed past the taller giants and stood next to me. I reached up and took his hand. Kit still held me by the other wrist, her fingers digging into my skin. A giant yelled something behind me, and Paik translated it to my parents. "He wants to know how you found this place. Who told you of our ceremony?" Mother's fire burned brighter and sent sparks into the air. "No one told us. That's the problem. Our neighbor saw Kalara enter the forest and go in this direction. We've been searching for her all night. And then we heard your voices and found this." She gestured to the gathering. "Paik, tell them we're taking our daughter. Set her on a stone, and my husband will lift her out." Paik raised his voice and spoke in words everyone understood at once. "Kalara's father has a gift. He can lift a rock with his mind, and a person can ride on it. I know there are many questions to be answered, but the water people are angry Kalara came here without telling them. Her father asked to lift her up to where they stand. Father shouted down. "We will lift her up. Kalara, move." He chose the stone nearest to me, the worst possible stone he could have chosen, the colored one. It rose out of the ground in a cloud of dust and hovered beside me. Giants shouted and threw themselves on the stone to hold it down. In the chaos, Kit pulled at my arm, and I lost hold of Paik. She babbled strange words, her hold bruising me. Paik tried to push toward us, but the giant with the robe stepped in his way. Father's voice hardly carried over the shouts. "Let her go!" But Kit pulled me further into the crack, toward the exit. That gifted light, the one that now burned in me, was supposed to be hers. Or at least, it was supposed to go to a giant. This lady was angry, and I could understand why. But I didn't want to go with her. I dug my heels into the ground and struggled. "Stop! This isn't helping!" Kit dragged me on, unfazed by my protest, and my shoulder seared with pain. I cried out and looked back to where the stone had been, but I couldn't find it. Something flew over my head with a gust of wind. A terrible thud filled my ears, and Kit let go of me. She teetered, then fell to the ground, the stone hovering over her body. The giants backed away. I tumbled to my knees next to Kit. Her eyes rolled, showing only the whites. Dark liquid poured from a deep gash at her temple. Something dripped from the colored stone beside me, a deep gray. Blood. Kit's blood. Father had done this. "Kalara!" he shouted. "Sit on the rock!" None of the giants came close. They eyed the rock warily. Their treasure had turned against them. "Paik!" I pressed my sleeve to Kit's head, and the pouring blood soaked through the fabric. "We need to take Kit to Aetha, now!" His voice came in a choked whisper. I think it is too late. I can sense it with my gift. Kit is fading already." An ache filled me. This close, I could see speckles on Kit's cheeks, like Paik. A youth struck down. Mother's fire blazing behind us. It was too much like my dream. This was how it would all begin in the future, but it wasn't supposed to happen today. And I wasn't supposed to receive the gift. What had Paik done? What had I done? Everyone was watching, waiting for me to leave on the stone, waiting for the threat of Father's gift to pass. But it would be the beginning of a war if we left like this. I had seen too much in my dreams to believe otherwise. I wouldn't sit back and watch it happen. But what could I do? Father's power would only hold them back for so long. What would they do to me if I didn't leave? My shoulder throbbed. I closed my eyes and looked at the gift within me. Could I breathe it out? Return it to the giants where it belonged? I had promised to help them, not to steal from them. I opened my mouth and willed the light to leave me. It felt like asking my heart to stop. Instead of light, sound came from my lips. Sounds I had never made before. It came as easy as thought. I was singing, just like in my vision. As I sang, the well of light within me trickled down my arm and into my hand, where I pressed my sleeve to Kit's wound. The core of the gift never left, only an overflow. It wanted to go, to be used. This was what I had said yes to. It was the strangest feeling, and at the same time, completely natural, as if I had always possessed a well of deep power, and I were just remembering how to use it. I marveled at the light in my veins, then caught a glimpse of Kit's lifeless face. This couldn't be how things turned out. On instinct, I willed more of the light toward her, not knowing what I was doing, sensing it was the right thing. Kit's eyes opened. My song ended, and I gasped. The light stopped flowing. She breathed with me, in and out. Life filled her lungs. I pulled away my bloodied sleeve and saw smooth skin where the gash had been. No bruising, no wound. Kit searched my face, and I held her gaze. She was whole, healed. And it had come from me. Me, who usually only saw things with my gift. I couldn't do things, not like Father, and definitely not like this. A familiar voice spoke close behind. "Kalara?" I turned to see Father. He had found his way down among the rocks. The giants circled close behind him. Would they attack, trying to stop him before he threw another rock? He stepped closer to me, his black hair tousled. "What did you do?" I stood from Kit's side, unsure how to answer. She was bleeding. And my shoulder. It didn't hurt anymore. I rubbed a hand over the joint. Paik rose to his feet also, and I moved to stand protectively in front of him. Father had hurt one giant in his anger. I didn't want it to become two. Paik laid a careful hand on my arm. "You do not need to guard me, Kalara. He was afraid before, but your father will listen now." Paik would know. He could see it in Father's mind. Father's dark eyes darted to my friend, but he didn't move. The giants pressed in closer. "Paik," I said, "you have to say something to everyone. Explain. You're the only one who can." He spoke to me in my mind. "What do you want me to say?" "Your words, for once. No one else's. It's what they need to hear." His eyes widened, and he took a deep breath. "My words," he thought. Then, he stepped onto a boulder, so his head rose above the gathering. He lifted his hands to draw all eyes. Reluctantly, the giants looked up at him, away from me and Father. "The water girl healed Kit." Paik spoke as loud as he could without shouting. "You all saw it. Kalara could not heal before tonight." He pointed at the elder, who had relinquished his gift. "Saw, when the gift was yours, could you heal?" The elder spoke one word. Paik translated. "No, he could not." Then why could I? The gifted light pulsed with my heart, as if it had always been a part of my body. All the people began to chatter again. I could hear questions in their tones, even if I couldn't understand. Paik held up a hand again and went on. "You know I can speak to you and hear you in a different way than anyone else. Tonight, I spoke to Saw's gift. I asked it to choose, and it chose Kalara." One giant whispered something angry to the others near him. Paik spoke over him. "You can blame me for how the ceremony went, but all I did was ask. Do you think I am the one who gives gifts? Am I stronger than the one they come from?" The giant crossed his arms. "Kalara accepted the gift. Paik said, and she accepted the responsibility that comes with it. Because of that, I believe the one who gives offered her more. Kalara is a healer now, unlike any of her people. She is like Aetha, but Aetha is fading. We have no children with a healing gift to replace her. The giver chose Kalara. Paik glanced at Kit, and she looked away, her mouth in a tight line. He went on, I am not an elder, and I have no right to speak. But there are secret things my gift lets me know. I have seen into Kalara's heart, and the hearts of many. His eyes wandered over them all. Did they hear him in their minds, the way I had? Kalara would give anything for the people. A giant shouted a question in his own words. Paik translated and answered. He asks which people. She has promised to serve ours. There was a ripple of conversation. Then Paik interrupted. And she will also serve her people. Are we so different? Our futures are entangled now. The grumbling giant took a breath to speak, but Paik didn't let him. She is my friend. If you want to ask me questions all night, you can do so in the village. But no one will touch Kalara unkindly again. You will leave now and let her go with her family. The gift has chosen. For a while, no one stirred among the rocks. Mother's fire flickered overhead, and a night breeze whispered through Paik's long hair. He kept his shoulders square, his posture tall, as if he could hold up the words he had spoken with his stance. The words that had been his own, spoken with authority into the hearts around him. This was the fullness of his gift, his yes, the way I had said yes to my gift and to the light. Kit moved first, standing from the rocky ground. I gave her the slightest bow, a silent apology for the pain she had endured. She touched her fingers to her temple, the place where I had healed her, then turned away with a clear statement in her language. Paik translated into my mind. She says this is not over. And I knew she was right. This was the beginning of a relationship between two peoples. Kit left, disappearing into the passage that led out of the cliff. Saw left next. One by one, the giants filed through the passage, away from the colored stone that now lay on its side. The last to leave, a very old giant, said something to Paik. Paik aimed his translation at Father. He says there are many things to speak of tomorrow at the evening gathering. Father's eyes met mine. Yes, there are. Chapter 6. The crack in the cliff looked different during the day. Shadowed, yes, but morning sunbeams now shone into the open area, where the colored stone still lay upturned. Father and I stood alone, between the dusty rock faces, though we knew giants watched the exits from outside and above. They would make sure their stone stayed where it belonged. It had taken a lot of convincing from Paik to let us through. I'll make it right. Father used his gift to return the stone to its original resting place. It fit perfectly in the hole it had left behind during the ceremony. We would meet with the giant elders tonight to discuss everything that had happened. Both father and I would go. But first, I needed answers. I needed to dream. Father stepped closer to the stone, staring at the color. "It won't burn you," I said. He brushed his fingers over the polished surface, then pressed his hand flat on it. As he leaned forward, his feet lifted into the air, and he hovered. It was the same way he usually made stones and wood and vessels move. His face went white, and he fell to the ground again. I came near the color also, feeling its draw. "It makes your gift better," like I said. Apparently, in the presence of color, Father could move living things. That was his enhancement. "I can feel it." He pulled his eyes from the stone. "Kalara, this place belongs to the giants, and they kept it secret. It would be best not to tell anyone from the vessel for now, to build trust between the elders." I wouldn't have told. Paik said not to. "Good." "But I think they'll invite our people to come here eventually. Paik wants them to."
"I hope you're right."
We both looked at the color for a while. How could there be so many different shades? I broke the silence. "I fell asleep last time when I touched it, and I fainted onto the ground. I'd better lie down this time." I unfolded an old cloth I had packed for the occasion and spread it on the dusty ground. I laid on it, careful to keep my dress away from the dirt. Last night, for the first time in a long time, no dreams had come to me. The dream gift still lived in me. I could feel it, along with the light I now possessed. But it lay dormant. My sleep had been peaceful, which seemed like a good sign for the future. But I wanted to be sure. Would touching the color bring the dreams back?
"You're sure you're ready for this?"
Father asked. "I'm ready." But was I? What if the ceremony had changed nothing about the future? Or what if Paik and I had triggered the war sooner by making the giants angry? I had to know. Maybe I wasn't supposed to know, since the dreams hadn't come yet on their own. But I had to try. I pressed my palm against the color and welcomed it to mingle with my gift. Something inside me flared, and I felt myself drifting into sleep. Before my eyelids could fall, a slender giant stepped lightly into the clearing beside Father. Paik had finished speaking with the giants outside. We smiled at each other for the briefest moment. Then I was asleep, and a dream came. First, I saw Paik, but his speckles were gone, replaced by the deep lines of age. He lay on a bed of leaves, eyes closed, surrounded by young giants. Were these his children, laying him to rest? I should have cried, but the scene was too peaceful. It made me feel peaceful. Time passed, and an enormous tree grew where he had been laid. My people and Paik's stood under the branches and spoke to each other. Had they all learned each other's languages? No. I felt it in the tree. It carried on Paik's gift and gave power to the words. Soon all the people on the land understood each other because the gift had spread to the plants, to the air. This would be Paik's legacy. I saw myself eating fruit from the tree. It only produced one fruit, and as I watched myself eat it, I wondered what power it carried. In the far future, my people wore beautiful robes and wove blossoms into their curls. They built enormous domed buildings, towers that stretched into the sky, cities that spread over mountains. Over time, more vessels came to the sandy shore, bigger vessels, fuller ones, with plenty of people gifted to move them through the water. Father was not so rare after all, and the others had survived. My people flooded the land. More people than I had known existed. I saw fat babies sleeping in their mother's arms. Then they grew up and had children of their own, generation after generation. I tried to count the years, but lost track. The giants stayed in the fields and planted more trees every year. The forests grew thick and high. Each time the cold came, ice spread over the land. My people would sing over the giants, and they would sleep warm in their homes. When the sun returned, the giants woke up, and so the cycle carried on. I saw each generation of singers, my descendants, with my gift to bless the sleep. At first, they came in pairs, hand in hand, a husband and a wife together. Would I have a husband someday to sing with me? As time sped on, the wives disappeared. Husbands came alone, dressed in fine clothes, crowns of silver and crystal on their heads. The men didn't sing. Their gifts hummed without music. The gift had changed with time, divided between the couples. Until one day, farther in the future than I could comprehend, no one came to bless the sleep. The giants shivered through the cold. They buried loved ones in the earth. I saw the one who should have blessed them. He sat in a black tower, and his ice-white eyes glinted cold. Did he see that the giants were dying? Grief flooded me. I wanted to make him see them and bless them. He should have loved them. But I would never speak to this man, my descendant of too many generations to count. Paik and I had stopped the war, but we had taken something precious from the giants. I couldn't control the gift forever. It would be passed on to people I couldn't influence. Someday, my family would hurt Paik's, and it was my fault. Then I saw a flash of true color, a person with brilliant hair and radiant skin, vivid like the stone. At the sight of her, a spark of hope ignited inside me. But the dream ended without any further clues. I had seen destruction and a hint of something better, but it left too soon. I only knew what I had dreamed for certain. Death. I awoke on the dirty blanket, tears rolling down the corners of my face. When I opened my eyes, Father and Paik stared back at me. "What did you see?" Father asked. "Did it work?" Paik said nothing. His face reflected my grief, tears staining his own cheeks. He had seen. I lay there, letting him feel what I felt, letting him know how sorry I was. He shook his head. Why had I forced a dream with the color? It hadn't come to me. It didn't demand to be spoken. There was nothing I could do about this future, and my gift knew it. That's why it hadn't shown me on its own. Paik's watery eyes met mine, and he offered a hint of a smile. It pierced me. His thoughts came to my mind. "We did it, Kalara." He would forgive me, and that made the future betrayal worse. I blinked back a fresh wave of tears. Father spoke again. "Did you change the future?" "Yes." Paik knelt and squeezed my hand. "She did exactly what she was supposed to do." I hope you enjoyed listening to People of Water by Rachelle Nelson, narrated by Karyne Norton. If you want to read more by Rachelle, go to RachelleNelsonAuthor.com to find more of her books. You can still grab a free ebook copy of People of Water while you're there, but you'll also want to check out Sky of Seven Colors, her debut novel released by Enclave in 2023. It's a YA fantasy about a colorless kingdom, and the characters in that book are descendants of Paik and Kalara, so you should already be invested in finding out their fate. I'll have a direct link for her website and book in the show notes. Are you an author? I'm always looking for more excellent stories to feature on the podcast. I'm currently booking for December and January, so if you're waiting to apply to be featured, keep in mind that I'm booking 2 to 3 months out, sometimes longer. I'm always eager to feature someone who listens to the podcast. And if you're not an author, I still love getting recommendations from readers, maybe even more so than applicants, because a reader recommendation is almost always guaranteed to be a solid story. Check out the contact page on the website to apply or nominate a story. As always, the links will be in the show notes. Thank you all for listening, and happy reading.